Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. So going down this next Tuesday, we got Dana White's Contender Series, episode 1. I think we're in season 10 of Dana White's Contender Series. So we got some epic matchups here. 5 fights on the card. Main event, pretty sick in the heavyweight division. And I'm excited to break all these fights down. We got 5 on the fight on the entire card. And usually I don't make fights that are outside of the UFC, even though I know it's Dana White's Contender Series. But we're gonna get to all these predictions, guys. So yeah, before we get any further into the video, make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe button, turn on notification when you guys do want to see when I upload new videos. Let me know, do you guys like watching the Contender Series or not? We're going to get into this. Starting up here, our first fight of the night here is Jon Kunneman versus Joe Kropschot. Now, first fight of the night in the middleweight division here. This is a solid fight. Joe Kropschot, what I've realized from him, um, throughout his entire MMA career was that he's a good striker. Very aggressive, very explosive on the feet, but his cardio is probably the main thing that concerns me about him. But he does have good jiu-jitsu. He knows how to land. He knows how to get these submissions locked in. He knows how to set them up. But the thing is, his wrestling and like his takedowns in general and his takedown defense is all terrible. Listen, man, you can be a good at jiu-jitsu, but you're grappling and your takedowns and takedown defense. Sometimes they're not that good, and Joe Kropchot's grappling isn't necessarily the best. I know if you guys do not know, Joe Kropchot did get submitted by Cody Brundage before Cody Brundage got into the UFC. That may seem like a bad look, but Cody Brundage is a pretty good fighter. Joe Kropchot, man, his last 5 fights, he got KO'd in the fight against Danny Cropton, then went on a 4 fight losing streak. Had this knockout over here. Then had a knockout against Mauricio Oslo submission actually. Then went to the LFA, won a few fights there, won 2 fights there, and they were both by submission. So his submission game has definitely improved, and his grappling has improved a little bit. But against a guy who has 100% finish rate like Joe Kunneman, who has a bunch of submissions, bunch of knockouts, and what I've seen from Joe Kunneman is that a lot of his fights end in the first round, either by submission or knockout. Only time that he had a win go past the first round was his debut. Ever since then, he's been consistently finishing everybody. His last 5 fights look like a freaking danger. In this fight over here, to D Hart, looked very good. He was very dangerous in that fight. Then had a bunch of other KOs. Had a submission win over here. Skyler Marley and yeah, against Matt Friesen. So he's had some very good highlight. It look like what I've seen from him is that he's had some highlight reel fights. But this is actually an interesting fight, and I know Joe Kunneman has the more knockouts than Joe Kropshot, but I think that John is just the better technical fighter. Joe is a kind of a long rangey fighter who kind of closes that kind of, you know, this is I think it's kind of a little bad. Does kind of close that distance very very well, and he starts just to throw a bunch of big bombs coming into this fight, and I think that that could be very bad against a guy like Joe, like Kunneman, who can hit you with one big shot and you're out cold. Like this fight can end in 40 seconds, like not even 40 seconds of the fight. Jon Kunneman has had a fight lasted 9 seconds, which we've seen in the UFC fights have lasted like 5 seconds, 7 seconds, but like he's had a bunch of very quick finishes, and he hits like a middle, and this guy hits like a middleweight. Really does knows how to set up the shots very well, and he has a very good ground game where he could definitely submit Joe Kropshot. Listen, man, Joe Kropshot, man, I think he's an entertaining fighter. This fight could be back to back. The longer the fight goes, I would favor Cooner, man. I definitely could see this being a big fight, but I'm gonna go with Cooney, man. Just because Cooney, man, in my opinion, Cooney, man, is just I think is definitely a bit of the more technical fighter. But for I think for Joe needs to he needs to close that. He needs to be the be the be the smarter fighter. Keep the fight at your pace on and keep the fight on your range. don't try and for Joe. I think he shouldn't try and go for the kill very early because one big shot from Joe Kunneman and you're out cold. I definitely say he could also needs to use that jiu-jitsu, try and lock up a pretty quick choke here and get Kunneman out here early. But if he can't do that, I think that Joe Cooney Man's gonna, get the first round knockout here. I just think that Joe Cooney Man, in my opinion, has just been on a very big roll. I think he's gonna get the knockout. Man, he could possibly lock up a late round submission here. But yeah. So I got Joe Cooney Man to win this one by knockout first round. Next fight up here in the featherweight division. Next up here, second fight of the night in the featherweight division, Ananias Mulumba versus Tom Pagliarulo. Now, this fight is a fight I've been going back and forth on a lot. And I think this fight is going to be fight of the night. Now, hear me out on this one. Mulumba and Tom are both very well-rounded strikers. Of what I've seen from Pagliarulo, man, his last five fights, had his armbar loss over here to Oliver Murbrad. But then, went in on a four fight winning streak, had some very nasty knockouts, and then, last year did fight in the PFL, which, I get it was about a year ago. He's been inactive, but PFL is probably one of the best organizations right now. And for Mulumba, his last five fights looked very good on the original scene. Had a bunch of brutal knockouts here. Then he already fought on Dana White's Contender Series against Marin Rahiki. And listen, man, he did very good in that fight. In that first round, coming into the fight, he was beating the absolute dog out of Martin Rahiki. I just think what happened was the ref kind of just didn't stop the fight, and the fight kept continuing on. And the ref should have stopped the fight, man. I feel like Mulumba did kind of get rigged out of that fight a little bit, but then he kind of was trying to go for the kill to try and get the finish, and didn't go out for him, and that's kind of shocking because usually a ref in like the UFC, majority of the times they have these early stoppages. So to my surprise, on when he first fought in the Contender Series, it didn't go as planned for him. But what that kind of reminded me of as well was when, if you guys don't remember, a while back when Brock Lesnar, I think it was like his first or like his second title defense of his heavyweight bout, he fought Shane Cartwin, who at the time I think was 12-0, undefeated, and he was beating the absolute break in that first round. He was beating the absolute breaks off of Brock Lesnar, and and a lot of people thought the ref should have started the fight. I think the ref was, I think, like Dan Margarita, Mugalita or whatever, or like John McCarthy. And then on the second round, but then he kept trying to go for the kill to finish Brock. But then Shane Carwin came into that second round. He was mad gassed, used all his energy up in that one round. Then Brock started, I think he started getting the job, started going for the kill as well. I think he knocked him out in the second or the third round. But it kind of was a similarity. I think that Mulumba was kind of in that same situation a little bit coming into that fight. So I definitely think that Mulumba definitely did a good job, but he also kind of emptied out the gas tank instead of being a little bit more patient. Then in his next fight, 4 months ago, he looked very good against an experienced fighter in Maham, who's had a pretty good run on the original scene. Wasn't in the UFC, but that was a pretty good performance. It looked like a better fighter coming into that fight. But Tom, man, the thing is about this fight, what concerns me from Mulumba is that Mulumba, man, it's gonna be a big struggle trying to close the distance. Him being 5'5", facing a guy like Tom who's 6 feet tall. Like, if you guys check right here, the guy, I don't know, this is probably, and this is accurate again. The guy is 6 feet tall as a featherweight. He's a pretty big featherweight, 6 feet tall, and has had a very good run out on the original scene, and is looking to take the win and get the knockout here. So this is the thing that concerns me is definitely the big height advantage, especially that this is basically like putting a short guy. This is basically like you would put like a match short guy playing against a guy who's 6 feet tall in a basketball match, except you're putting these two in a cage. Just what this is reminding me of. But like Hudson, man, I think Hudson could definitely close the distance very, very well. But also, man, is that if Mulumba if Ananias Mulumba consistently fights in that technical pace the entire time, he's not going to be able to close the distance very fast. I think what you got to do, especially if you're a short fighter, what you got to do is you kind of got to use that double jab to try and close that distance. Come in with a lot of feints, because definitely, especially for like the UFC, if you're a fighter in like MMA, and trying to close that distance, you want to use a lot of feints, a lot of jabs, and try and trick them into power shots to back them up against the cage. I think that's what Mulumba needs to do is kind of trying to back Tom up against the cage in this fight, because I think once you get someone that tall against the cage, you can they kind of have nowhere else to go besides moving sideways or whatever. So I think that's definitely an advantage that Mulumba needs to try. If Mulumba sees that Pergolia is against the cage, he needs to take advantage of that, because that could be like one of the only times he can get close to Mulumba to Tom in this fight. Now, who do I think is gonna win this fight here? I'm going with my boy Tom Pergula on this one, man. I think he's gonna get the decision here. I just think that stylistically, he's going to be giving Mulumba a lot of tough time. I'm predicting this to be fight of the night, even though I know that they don't give fight of the night awards in the contender series, but I think that this could be a big banger back to back scrap, especially if it's um at distance. This is going to be a very big fight. A very good fight. I just think that Tom's going to be able to control the distance, use those calf kicks, use those body kicks, use that jab, and kind of use a lot of big pounder shots when Mulumba's coming in close. I just think that he's just going to be the more dangerous fighter the entire night. But Mulumba can definitely get one done in the bag, especially an early knockout here. I definitely could see that from Mulumba. But I'm going to go with Tom Parkula to win this one by decision. Next up here in the flyweight division here is Bilal Hudson versus Mridul Saikia. This is one of the most, I think, definitely in my opinion, going to be one of the most decent fights all season of the Contender Series. Mridul Saikia, man, out on the original scene, he looked like a pretty decent prospect. And what I've seen from him, has pretty good Muay Thai, good grappling, good jiu-jitsu. But what I've realized, man, he had that road to the UFC, he lost to Merguli or whatever, where he got clipped with that massive left hook. But then he came back with a pretty decent win, so he's a pretty decent fighter. Bilal Hudson, man, I'm very high on him as a fighter. I think he's going to be very good in the UFC. I think he's going to be a very big prospect. Out on the original scene, this man had a bunch of knockouts, bunch of submissions, um, just a bunch of nasty knockouts, especially this one right here over Brian Harsey, where he managed to get that knockout with that massive clean body shot. That I think he did very well. So and the thing is, this is going to be an interesting fight no matter what. It's going to be a very fast pace. Both fighters, they're flyweight, so they're, very light. So what they're going to do majority of the time is that they're going to be, throwing a bunch of combinations. I just think Saigia, man, his boxing is something like his hands are decent. He does have some very devastating leg kicks that definitely can drop you one on the floor. Listen, man, Bilal Hudson, man, I think Bilal Hudson, in my opinion, is going to be a very big problem in the flyweight division. This guy could definitely be a future star in the UFC, and I'm very excited to see how he is going to debut. But it's a pretty tough fight, man, because on Tapology right now they're giving Hudson a 97% chance to beat Saigia. I think Saigia definitely has a bit more of a better chance to beat Hudson. I just think that he knows how to set up those kicks very well. No, knows when to land big counter shots, and definitely knows how to close that distance. And that could definitely be a very big trouble for the Igno Ninja coming into this fight, because I feel like from a dual side, I think, in my opinion, I think that Saigia could definitely use those kicks to use, man. Cause I think that for Bilal Hudson, man, he's good, but sometimes he rushes. He kind of sometimes what I've seen from him rushes in a little bit too quick, and he gets caught off guard with some very big shots. And I think one big kick from Saikia and Bilal Hudson could definitely be out cold. Can be out cold coming into this fight. But I think I'm gonna rely here on Bilal Hudson, man. I think Bilal Hudson's gonna get the third round knockout here. I think that it's gonna be a very entertaining fight, but I just think that eventually Saikia is gonna give in and gonna fall into that pressure of Bilal Hudson coming into this fight, and I think Bilal Hudson is gonna get the knockout here. But the longer this fight goes, the more I definitely could see Saikia definitely having the better chance over a young fighter like Bilal Hudson. But I think Bilal Hudson gets the job done here. I think that he's going to be the faster fighter, the more explosive fighter. He can definitely dodge those big shots that Saigia is going to land all night. But like I said, I think Saigia definitely has a better chance of beating Bilal Hudson than what some of you guys actually give him. But give me Bilal Hudson to win this one by knockout. Next up here in the lightweight division is AB Alsaghir versus Fabrizio Escarrega, if I said that correctly. This is probably another fight that I've been going back and forth on. And what I've seen from both fighters' last 5 fights, for Escarrega, man, he's a very nasty striker on the feet, knows how to land those big, nasty elbows. And his only loss was because he came into the fight with an arm injury, which forced him to lose the fight. But other than that, he's been looking pretty good on the original scene. Did show his grappling in this fight against Rosas, and Rosas definitely does have some good grappling. Uh, Beating Roman Carvado has a lot of MMA experience. Even though I get 17 with 18 losses, may not be the best look, but not bad. And then most recently taking out Adriano Nunez, who I think is which honestly that was a pretty good performance. Adriano Nunez as well. I think Adriano Nunez is a pretty good fighter too, and he could definitely be elite level UFC competition as well. For AB, man, um, Alsaghir, his last 5 fights looking pretty good on the original scene. Won this fight against Jerome Featherstone, which was a decent win. Jerome Featherstone definitely has a lot of power in his hands. Jimmy Saldine, decent win. Eric Vo also has some MMA experience as well. Drew Figget, who has a bunch of MMA experience. And then most recently taking out Juan Porto about 10 months ago. So, what I've realized from both fighters that AB Alsaghir, he kind of fights people who who have a bunch of losses on the record, but have a lot of experience. For Exagira, I think he's fighting people who are kind of on that same level as him. So I think AB has definitely fought a bit of levels of competition. Even their fighters who aren't at their best stages no more. But there are a lot of fighters with a lot of experience. So he's had some experience with a lot of guys who's had about 50, about almost like 30 plus 20 plus fights in MMA. So that could definitely be a good thing. And I think at first when I think Elazar kind of had that same situation with Taporia. When Taporia, like Ilia Taporia, when Ilia first started fighting, he was mainly a jiu-jitsu guy. And then his striking got increasingly better and better over time. And I think that's what's going on with AB. AB's grappling is very good, but his striking has definitely improved over time. Even though they don't share no similarity to their styles, but I think that he kind of had that same. I think he came from that same scenario. Was a good wrestler, then eventually got good strike, good hands. For Fabrizio, man, of what I like from him, he's a very nasty, explosive striker. Mixes up with those elbows, knows how to throw up with those knees to the body. He's just a dangerous fighter everywhere the fight goes, and he has very good conditioning. And what I've seen here, especially from like Mexican fighters, they're very in the UFC. They're very explosive, good defense with very good conditioning, man. Even it may seem like a lot of them have a knockout, so the later the fight goes, the more bad it's gonna be for them. But that's not necessarily the case here, because a lot of those guys have very good conditioning, even for boxers. A lot of Mexican boxers, they have very good conditioning. And Fabrizio he's very good. He has very good conditioning with very good boxing. His boxing is very good, and definitely knows how to mix up with those. With the he knows in the way he kind of throws those knees and elbows, kind of like what a Muay Thai fighter would do. Has that kind of that same kind of stance as a Muay Thai fighter, but his boxing is very good. And so is AB's, bro. AB's boxing is clean, man. So is his wrestling. This fight can go. This fight is 50-50 everywhere the fight goes. I think that Alsaghir is definitely probably, in my opinion, the better grappler. I think he has a bit more of experience when it comes to the grappling. When it comes to like the striking, the striking, I think it's both 50-50. But who's more of an explosive fighter? I think that Fabrizio is more of the explosive fighter in this fight. And the guy has very good reach. Fabrizio has very good reach. Him being 6'1", he has a bunch of knockouts. I think he has like one decision win on his record. Has a lot of knockouts on his resume, and I just think that he could definitely be a very good fighter. AB, man, I think AB definitely needs to try and get him out. I think AB needs to try and knock him out early on in the fight, because I think the longer this fight goes, I think that the more trouble AB Alzaghir is going to have in this fight. And listen, man, I think, like I said, Fabrizio's conditioning is very good. I think that AB needs to have a smart approach in this fight. I think he needs to kind of needs to make him dodge a lot of those big shots that he's gonna throw, kind of make him miss, trying to make him tired, trying to destroy his body early so he's not explosive in those later rounds. But if AB cannot do any of those things, I think that he won't have that much success in this fight. And I think that Fabrizio could definitely just be, pushing on, going forward all day, all night, coming into this fight. But AB also think he needs to also land the takedown as well. I think his wrestling is definitely going to be a big a part. He uses wrestling, but not as much as what he does now. I think in this fight, I think coming into this fight, he needs to use a lot of that wrestling in this fight to try and have a lot of success coming into this fight. But I think that kind of concerns for Fabrizio, that Fabrizio does kind of, sometimes he has good defense, but he also can absorb a lot of punch. He also can absorb a lot, just the way of his fighting style. So AB can definitely move out the way, come up with some big shots that can knock him out. But I think that's gonna be very tricky for Alzaghir But who do I favor to win this fight? I'm gonna go with Fabrizio on this one. I think Fabrizio gets a decision win. This is gonna be a back-to-back brutal fight. I just think that Fabrizio is just gonna be the more that has gonna have the better conditioning. I think he's gonna be the more explosive striker. I think he's gonna be pushing forward all night, and I just don't think that AB Algier is gonna be able to handle that pressure this entire fight. And keep following up with big shots, I definitely would favor AB to win this fight. But I'm gonna go with Fabrizio Ergargia to win this one by decision. Next up here, our main event of the evening: Matt Adams versus Anthony Wint. Now, this is honestly going to be a very interesting fight because it's two heavyweights. But I liked for what I've seen from Anthony Wint, man. His last five fights, beating Jawaski Belati. I get it, he has no wins in the UFC, not in the UFC, in MMA. And just on the original scene, had two fights in the Fury UFC, which is a decent promotion right there. Matt Adams, man, I've also liked what I've seen from Matt Adams as well, man. Coming from the LFA, having a bunch of big wins. You guys already know how I feel about fighters from the LFA. I think a lot of them are legit fighters who can give people tough times in the UFC. Then beating Bent Water, then lost this fight over here to Arslan Burlov, which I actually studied Arslan in this fight right here. That wasn't a bad loss at all. But and had a pretty good bounce back 4 months ago against Campbell. Wasn't in the LFA. But other than this loss right there, and his loss that he had that he lost by knockout on his debut, he's a good fighter, man. He's done a bunch of other fights too. He's done BK matches. He's done a few boxing matches, so his hands are very good, and he knows how to land a lot of big shots as well. That could definitely affect Anthony Wint, and knowing that he's the bigger fighter. And the thing is, this is what's concerning, man. In the heavyweight division, if somebody weighs in a little bit bigger, that may be a problem, because knowing that the more bigger you are, listen, man. like weight and like size wise may not matter, but like when it comes to the heavyweight division, I think that 100% matters, man. In like smaller divisions, I get it. But like in these heavyweight divisions, man, they're kind of, even though you may seem like, oh, there's one that's very obvious, it's kind of not, bro. Cause like the thing is, man, you can never be very confident on a pick when it comes to the heavyweight division. Cause one big shot, like listen, man, this is a perfect example. Junior Dos Santos, man, you could be beating the absolute dog crap out of him. But then all of a sudden, he comes up with a very big shot. And next thing you know, boom, you're out cold. Not saying that Matt Adams and Anthony Wint are on the same level as Junior Dos Santos. I'm just saying that that's the reality of it is in the heavyweight division, man. There's a lot of big guys. And the thing is, man, this is what also gave kind of like when Brock Lesnar was fighting a big advantage. Because when Brock Lesnar was fighting, he was a huge guy. So like kind of gave him also a big advantage of winning majority of these fights. I think that's another reason why Brock Lesnar managed to, become the heavyweight champ because of how big in size he was. And for Anthony Wint, man, I think what I've seen from Anthony Wint, he's a very good, sharp striker. He kind of reminds me of like the black version of like Sergey Blachowicz, man. And I like it, man. Has a lot of big knockouts. Like I said, I like what I've seen from him out on the original scene. And I think that this is gonna be a banger fight between Matt Adams and Anthony Wint. But now, I think that is a tough fight to predict. So I'm gonna give a few reasons why I think who I got winning for this fight. For Anthony Wint, I think Anthony Wint, man, he needs to come out here in this fight and kind of wait for Matt Adams to make a mistake because the reason how Matt Adams lost his debut was because he kind of was rushing in a little bit too soon and then he got clipped. Boom! Next thing you know, got knocked out. And I would say that Matt Adams is the better grappler. I know he got submitted right here, but Arslan is a good grappler, man. And Anthony Wint, man, I think he's also going to be trained in probably one of the best gyms right now, Kill Cliff FC, where a bunch of those guys, Gilbert Burns comes, and a lot of those other RDR, Robbie Lawler, fighters like those. So he's been training in a very good environment, but so has Matt Adams, man. I think both fighters would be big trouble in the UFC, but I'm gonna go with Anthony Wint here, man. I think Anthony Wint is gonna get the second round knockout here. This is going to be a tough fight no matter what throughout this entire fight. I just think that Anthony Wint is going to be is going to wait for one of those big shots. I think Matt Adams is going to get countered. Listen, man, Matt Adams could be beating this guy this entire fight. I think Anthony Wint is going to eventually come here and get the knockout here. But, yeah, that's who I got winning this fight, guys. That's going to be the end of the video, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe button. Turn on notifications when you guys do want to see when I upload new videos, man. I appreciate all y'all for watching and comment down below who you guys got winning. I'll see you on the next one. I'm out. Peace.